ZTE got hit hard. Will China learn its lesson?
在中国目前的官场文化乃至在大众文化当中，欺骗不可耻只有行骗被抓住了才可耻。
How damaging is intellectual property theft to America?
There are concerns, I think, that the United States might potentially lose its competitive edge over emerging technologies.
Can China become a tech superpower by stealing other people's technology?
以为偷到了设计图纸或者取得了秘密数据就掌握了知识，其实是非常大的误解。
And if national security issues elevate, can it be resolved?
Welcome to Zooming In. I'm Simone Gao. China has long been involved in unfair trade practices that are illegal under free trade rules. Chinese companies are also known for violating regulations and stealing intellectual property. China has said it wants to become the world's leader in technology. But can a country that relies on stealing research instead of innovation ever become a true tech leader? What should the US be worried about? And will China's economic expansion replace Western business ethics with the Chinese Communist Party's way of doing things? We'll explore all these questions and more in this episode of Zooming In.
The state-owned enterprise ZTE is China's second-largest telecommunications equipment company. It uses Google's Android system and incorporates U.S. chips and technology in its smartphones. It has violated U.S. export regulations for several years by shipping telecommunications equipment to Iran and North Korea. In 2010, ZTE sold the Iranian regime a surveillance system capable of spying on its own citizens through landline, mobile, and internet communications. ZTE continued selling U.S. technology to Iran despite America's long-term ban on selling non-humanitarian items. In March of 2016, the U.S. restricted sales to ZTE for exporting U.S.-made high-tech goods to Iran. The Commerce Department released memos from ZTE's legal department showing a step-by-step guide to setting up shell companies to skirt U.S. export controls. In March 2017, Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross announced a $1.19 billion penalty for ZTE's export violations to Iran and North Korea.
With this action, we are putting the world on notice. Improper trade games are over with. Those who flout our economic sanctions, export control laws, and any other trade regimes will not go unpunished. They will suffer the harshest of consequences. But this case is just the beginning. Under President Trump's leadership, we will be aggressively enforcing strong trade policies with the dual purpose of protecting American national security and protecting American workers. ZTE, whose brazen disregard for our laws was as insulting as it was dangerous, will, if approved by the court, first pay an immediate out-of-pocket monetary penalty of $892 million. ZTE has then agreed further to a 7-year suspended denial order and a 7-year, $300 million suspended fine, both of which provide long-term deterrence to further bad behavior. If they step out of line, those penalties will be immediately imposed.
And they did step out of line. The Department of Commerce determined that ZTE made false statements in 2016 and in 2017 during the probationary period. ZTE covered up the fact that they paid full bonuses to employees who engaged in illegal conduct. They were supposed to have punished them instead. The DOC announcement said ZTE admitted committing 380 regulations violations. On April 16, 2018, the Department of Commerce banned U.S. companies from selling technology to ZTE for 7 years. Following the DOC's announcement, several mainland Chinese media reported one of ZTE's upstream companies has ordered over 1,000 employees who are working for ZTE to take an indefinite vacation. A number of the ZTE production line have stopped operating. However, this report was quickly removed from all mainland Chinese media. An NTD TV reporter contacted a ZTE service partner who confirmed the indefinite vacation.
中心都是我们的固定客户了，我哪知道放几天？我看他们朋友圈发的呀，具体几天我也不知道。
According to the report, 80,000 ZTE employees, together with its service providers, channel providers, and partners, are all heavily affected. On April 20th, at a ZTE press conference, its president, Yin Yimin, described the U.S. Department of Commerce's decision as utterly unfair. He said ZTE has the backing of the entire nation.
ZTE products have a market here domestically. With a backing of 1.3 billion people, we are confident and we are capable of overcoming this challenge.
25 to 30% of ZTE's parts are made in the U.S. Yin Yimin said the ban will put ZTE into shock.
I discussed the ZTE incident with senior political commentator Wen Zhao. Here's what he has to say. 美国商务部的这个声明里写道，中兴在这个过程中违反规定380次，掩盖违规行为96次。那这其中就包括他们隐瞒了对那些涉事的员工发奖金的事情。最后，中兴反驳的时候又说呢，我们怎么可能为了这几个员工甘愿承担3亿美元的罚款呢？好像美国的指控非常的荒谬。我认为他们的行为确实是不可理解，已经是在被审查期间了。为什么知道有可能受到严厉的惩罚，还要继续给那几个员工发奖金，还要继续通过中介公司向伊朗和朝鲜出售武器？这些国企他们的心态到底是什么样的呢？
对美国人来讲啊，这些中国企业出于何种动机要选择继续欺骗，其实不重要，重要的是这些事情他们确实做了，事实是明白无误的，那他们就要付出代价。至于说中兴为什么要这么做，选择继续欺骗，他的动机有各种可能，也许他们的管理层只是简单的以为给涉案的员工扣发奖金这是小事儿啊，这种小事儿美国人是不会在意的，也不会继续深究的。也许因为呢，这些员工只是做了上级交办的事情，处罚他们，高层觉得呢不利于这个公司团队的士气。这些国有企业或者说有官办背景的企业，他们一种普遍的心态就是认为自己身份特殊，有政府作为强大的后盾，天大的事儿捅出天大的篓子，不管做了啥也总能够扛得过去。实际上在国内还是在国际啊，他们过去打交道的环境强化了他们这种印象。既然从来没有受到过真正的教训，付出过代价，他们就会对继续欺骗这种做法不以为意。另外，在中国目前的官场文化乃至在大众文化当中欺骗不可耻只有行骗被抓住了才可耻。而中兴过去在和美国政府打交道的过程中，他可能觉得自己已经有足够多的经验了，已经掌握了美国政府行事的逻辑，认为自己完全可以游刃有余了。至于说继续通过中介向伊朗、向朝鲜出口技术，这有可能是某些政府部门交办的任务吧。不管怎么说，我想他们现在是完全意外了，受到了很大的冲击，他们恐怕完全没有想到本届美国政府会这么较真儿。
Riley Waters is a policy analyst at the Heritage Foundation's Asian Studies Center. He specializes in emerging technology and cybersecurity, as well as Northeast and Asian macroeconomics. Here's what he has to say. Another Chinese reaction to the DOC's punishment of ZTE was that the Chinese magnate Ma Yun vowed to make China's own chips. So, do you think by developing those core technologies, China can become independent of the international business regulations?
Yeah, it's certainly possible for China to either become, an indigenous innovator or autonomous innovator. There are, of course, costs with this. You know, China, just like the United States, has become very reliant on the international market and innovation ideas from outside of their own borders. And so while China, I think, could potentially, you know, domestically create the machine and software that ZTE requires, it's going to be costly, and doing so will, you know, it'll have a heavy cost, and it could potentially limit innovation and future growth prospects.
Right. China is the second largest economy in the world. It's investing and purchasing a large number of Western companies. So, do you think by expanding economic power, the Chinese Communist regime will eventually be able to replace the Western countries and become the standard setter for information technologies?
Yeah, I think China will have its limitations as it seeks to become the leader in a lot of these technologies. There's talk about how China wants to become the standard setter and sort of the global powerhouse for a lot of emerging technologies. And I think what a lot of people, even within the United States, don't understand is there's still competition in standardized setting with all technologies and almost in every sector. You know, while China might be able to indigenously, as we were talking about, domestically develop its own, you know, 5G, that doesn't necessarily mean it will be implemented abroad. You know, some countries might be willing to adapt these standards, such as other emerging economies, but when we look toward the developing world, when we look toward Europe, especially Western Europe, United States, Canada, North America, it's not necessarily something that's for sure. So there will be competition, I think, and I think the Chinese government and Chinese companies will continue to see this going forward.
Coming up, why is intellectual property theft a security issue, and what should America be worried about?
ZTE isn't the only Chinese company the U.S. has been worried about. Huawei, China's #1 telecommunications company, has been involved in multiple controversies. Many involve stealing intellectual property from U.S. tech companies.
Both companies face criticism over potential ties to the Chinese Communist regime. Recently uncovered internal company documentation suggests that Huawei and ZTE received support, financial subsidies, and large contributions for R&D research from the Chinese government. In an interview with Voice of America, Chinese economist Xia Yeliang said that a private company like Huawei actually has ties to the Chinese military as well. Huawei's founder, Ren Zhengfei, even directed the People's Liberation Army Information Engineering Academy. They provide technical products to the Chinese military. On April 11th, former National Counterintelligence Executive Michelle Van Cleve testified at a House committee about intellectual theft.
The United States is a spy's paradise. Our free and open society is tailor-made for clandestine operations. As this committee is so well aware, American R&D, the engine for raw ideas and products and capabilities and wealth, is systematically targeted by foreign collectors to fuel their business and industry and military programs at our expense. China and Russia both have detailed shopping lists of targeted U.S. technologies and specific strategies for clandestine acquisition, ranging from front companies to joint R&D projects to cyber theft to old-fashioned espionage. U.S. academic institutions, with their great concentration of creative talent and cutting-edge research and open engagement with the world of ideas, are an especially attractive environment for these kinds of activities. Let me say the numbers are frankly staggering. For every dollar we invest, some $510 billion annually, we lose most, if not all, of that equivalent amount to these kinds of illicit activities every year. Each year, reports out of U.S. counterintelligence show numbers that are worse than the year before. Losses are growing, numbers of foreign collectors are growing, vulnerabilities are growing, and the erosion of U.S. security and economic strength is also growing.
Among all the potential malicious players, Huawei's name definitely stands out. It might become the next Chinese tech company the US will punish. Some Chinese media say it's all about the US weakening the competitive advantage of China's telecommunications industry. But Riley Waters disagrees. The DOC's next target might be Huawei, and some Chinese media reports that Huawei poses a threat to America's IT industry because Huawei is the biggest telecommunications equipment company in the world, and the US is highly concerned with Huawei's next wave of R&D efforts, which includes 5G chips and smartphones. So if the overarching strategy of America is to suppress the development of China's high-tech industry, Huawei will be the biggest target. Do you agree with our views?
I believe the United States government has more concerns with the cybersecurity concerns that Huawei and ZTE present. This was highlighted in a 2012 Intel House report that noted both ZTE and Huawei's not only the nature of their company, the investments in telecommunications and infrastructure and that sort, but also the potential connections with the Chinese government could pose some potential risks. There are concerns, I think, that the United States might potentially lose its competitive edge over emerging technologies, 5G, the hardware and software development of these companies. But I don't really think that's so much for concern. Especially from the United States government side, there's very little that they can do. It's more focused on the cybersecurity concerns, I think.
I also talked to Wen Zhao about China's long-standing policy of intellectual property theft. Let's take a listen. 中国盗窃知识产权的主要原因之一是因为自己的创新和研发能力弱。那为什么中国的创新能力弱呢？
这当然是一个非常复杂的问题，它也是个系统性的问题。每个行业和领域，它自己创新能力弱都有自己具体的原因。从整体上来看呢，中国大陆的科技实力在全球属于第4等级，就是在5等级里面，它排倒数第2个，就是第4个等级。第1等级就是美国嘛，居于核心地位。第2个等级是英法德日这些发达国家。第3等级像加拿大、澳大利亚、挪威、以色列、韩国这些中等以上发达国家。那中国大陆它是与墨西哥、印度这些发展中国家同样处于第4等级。这个呢，就与中国大陆目前的经济体量很不相称。其实我们看，不仅是在科技创造力方面，在人文学科领域的创造力，同样中国大陆也很匮乏。所以我觉得这两者呢，要合在一起来看。创造力它本质上是一个东西，人类的创造力它不管是在科技领域还是人文领域体现出来，它本质上都是同一个东西。它是一种革命精神，意味着对前人的建设性否定。但是在中国目前的教育体制之下，这种革命性和否定性的思维被压制，人们被教育驯服才能够生存立足。所以当人们的头脑都被调成那个调以后啊，他的民族性格就被抑制了创造力的发挥。事实上我们看到历史上某个民族它伟大发明涌现的时候，同时呢也是伟大的哲学家和诗人涌现的时代。那目前的中国，这个中共的意识形态部门控制着教育和一切文化领域，它鼓吹的是服从而不是挑战。所以从整体文化氛围来讲，这是一个对创新不友好的环境。
别人研发要花时间花钱，但是中国它通过盗窃一下子就能把这些技术拿到手。那您觉得，就是中国它能够通过盗窃知识产权真的成为科技强国吗？
要回答这个问题啊，我们要明白，创新它不仅仅意味着你最后拿到的那个专利成果，它其实指的是一个过程。在创新的过程中有大量的试错和失败，这个历经挫折的过程其实是非常可贵的啊！正是这个过程锻炼了你对某一个领域的深刻独到的见解，它既积淀了你的经验，同时又把你的洞察能力锤炼成熟。以为偷到了设计图纸或者取得了秘密数据就掌握了知识，其实是非常大的误解。这就像武侠小说里面写的，偷到了一本武功秘籍一个身体孱弱的人就能够练成绝世高手一样，那是不可能的。 创新是一个过程，它内化为人的一种素质，最后它会变成一个科学家共同体的习惯和伦理观念，它是要在一点一滴的日常工作当中去养成的。另外一个问题是，创新呢，它往往是从局部小的地方开始，有踏实的积累之后，才会有更大的突破。假如你是用市场去换外商的技术，你引进成套的技术和产能，像中国汽车工业那种做法一样，你没有局部创新作为积淀，没有这个基础，你是没有办法消化的因为你没办法一起步就去创造一个完整的技术体系出来嘛。那今后你这个汽车工业要发展怎么办呢？你只有持续依赖强制转让技术，或者持续的偷窃，就是别人的技术升级了，你再去偷，再去强迫他转让，因为你自己没有创造能力，那你和这个外商在知识产权上的摩擦就会越来越尖锐。其实这就是很多中国领域的现状。当然，你走这条路是不可能成为科技强国的。
Coming up, in today's trade-based foreign policy, what's the future for U.S.-China relations?
The US-China trade war has been in the news a lot recently, but some argue that the trade war started years ago. China's unfair trade practices, which are illegal under free trade rules, have put the US at an unfair disadvantage. How did it get to this point? And can two fundamentally different ideologies coexist? Let's take a look.
U.S.-China relations have fundamentally changed since Nixon reached out to China in the 70s. At the time, the U.S. wanted to use China to counter the Soviet Union's threat. The Carter administration based its foreign policy on human rights. Reagan based his on anti-communism. Despite differences, their ideologies were still based on democratic principles. This changed during the Clinton administration. Clinton helped China join the World Trade Organization. Value-based foreign policy was exchanged for a trade-based foreign policy. Many hoped this would help China move towards democracy. It could also help the U.S. economically by selling U.S.-made goods to China. A couple decades later, it's U.S. jobs, not goods, that were shipped to China. Now, China's the second largest economy in the world. Yet it's still an authoritarian regime. Meanwhile, its economic power enables it to influence the U.S. in various ways. Its investment and purchase of American businesses and infiltration in media and government has caused America to compromise its fundamental values.
The West and China have contrasting views on many things. Intellectual property rights is one of them. In the West, the birth of property rights accompanied the birth of capitalism. In 1787, the U.S. Constitution was drafted. 3 years later, the patent law was born. During the French Revolution, the birth of patent law even took precedence over the Constitution. Protecting intellectual property rights is a necessary condition for the growth of capitalism. However, things are different in China. The first official Chinese patent law was made in 1984, 35 years after the CCP took power. But timing isn't the point here. The point is how the two ideological systems look at people's rights and freedom differently. That has been the source of many conflicts between the US and China. I'm afraid it will continue to be that way. Thanks for watching Zooming In. I'm Simone Gao, and see you next week.